Hi, this is Kamil here from Qlik. Today I'm going to cover integrating Qlik Sense with OneMap through APIs. This is the part 3 of a 3-part series. In case you missed the part 1 and part 2, please look out for the link in the description below. Let's get started. OneMap offers extensive set of APIs to cater for a variety of use cases. For example, you can mash up your own data with data from OneMap or search for addresses using the APIs provided. There are a couple of things to take note of when using the OneMap APIs. SRI has set a maximum of 250 calls per minute. If you are pulling a big data load, do remember to split them up into batches. There are some APIs require a token. In order to get the token, you need to register a free account with OneMap and follow the instructions on how to obtain a token on their website. Do check out the OneMap community forum where you can seek help, discuss, and find out the tips and tricks about OneMap. In order to work with OneMap APIs, we will need to use the ClickRest Connector. Representational State Transfer, or REST, is a software architectural style that was created to guide the design and development of the architecture of the World Wide Web. REST defines a set of constraints for how the architecture of an internet-scale distributed hypermedia system, such as the web, should behave. Many web-based data sources expose data through a REST API. The ClickRest Connector, which is a built-in connector, enables Qlik Sense to efficiently load data into Qlik apps from a REST data source. The ClickRest Connector is a generic connector. It is not tailored to a specific REST data source. The REST connector supports the following data type: JSON data, XML data, CSV files. The REST connector supports the following authentication methods: Windows authentication, basic and digest authentication schema, X509 certificates. The diagram illustrates how the ClickRest Connector request flow. The Qlik platform will connect and send requests to the REST service provider through the ClickRest Connector. The REST service provider will then return the data either in the form of XML, JSON, or CSV. For our case, OneMap will be our REST service provider. When receive a request from the Qlik platform, OneMap will then return the data back in the form of JSON file. Qlik platform will then consume the data and present the data in the visualization. Now let's take a look on how to configure OneMap API in Qlik Sense. Open a new or existing app in Qlik Sense and select either Add Data or Data Load Editor. From Add Data, select REST from the list of connectors. From Data Load Editor, select Create a new connection in the Data Connection column to get a list of connectors. Select REST from the list of connectors. The Create New Connection REST window will appear. Enter the URL of the resource being requested from the REST service. The URL syntax must include HTTP. In addition to the location, the URL can include query parameters and other information about the data being retrieved. For example, we want to use the SDY21 to WGS84 converter. We can enter the following. You can leave the parameters like connection timeout, read or write timeout, method, default value is get, HTTP protocol, request or response body, encoding, and the rest as is. As this API requires two parameters, X and Y, we need to fill in the values. Look for additional request parameters section and enter as follows. You can click on the Test Connection button to test it. If it is working, there will be a pop-up window to inform you that the connection succeeded. You may enter a name for the connection and then save it by clicking on the Save button. Now, let me show you a demo on how to use OneMap API in Qlik Sense. In this demo, I will show you how to load some car park data from data.gov, where the data contains SBY21 coordinates. Then I will show you how to loop through the HDB car park table and convert the SBY21 coordinates to lat long using the API provided by OneMap. We will read the HDB car park record one by one and then dynamically assign the values into variables before we call the API to convert this value into lat long. We will repeat this process until the end of record for the HDB car park data. What I have here is some car park information that I got from data.gov.sg. If you look at the data itself, there's X and Y coordinates. So if you want to use this in a map, so it's best that we can actually convert it into lat long. In order to do so, you can actually use the OneMap API to do that. If you look at the OneMap API documentation, so there is a SVY21 to 4326 converter. So over here, it requires two parameters, X and Y. What I have here is a Qlik Sense app that I've already created beforehand. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to load some HDB car park data in. To do so, I'm going to use the script editor. To load the HDB car park data, I'm going to use a REST connector to connect to data.gov through the API. To do so, I'm going to create a new connection and look for REST connector. And for the URL part, I'm going to copy it from the data.gov. Here you go to data API and you just copy this. This will load the first 5 records from data.gov. I'm going to paste it in here. And we can do a test here. Okay, connection succeeded. So I'm going to rename this as HDB car park. And click on create. Now that the connection is established, we can actually start to load the data. To do so, I'm going to create a new section in our script here. I'm going to call this HDB car park. And then we are going to look for the connector that we have created earlier, the connection that we created earlier. Then click on the select data icon. Then here you will see that the data that is being returned is actually in a form of JSON. And if you expand this, then we can see there are quite a lot of data that is being returned. But for us, we only need the record data, which is this one here. You can click on it to do a preview as well. Then it will show you the data here. Then once we have selected this, then just click on insert script. Then all the scripts will be actually automatically generated for you, and you can actually start to load the data. Before we load the data, I'm going to rename the records to HDB car park so that we can remember the table later on. So to do so, just put it in the bracket, and then I'm just going to load the data. Okay, the data has been loaded successfully, and we actually fetch 5 records as per what we have set earlier on. Let's close this and move on to next steps. Let's recap our demo scenario. The first step is to load the data from data.gov. So we have actually loaded the HTTP car park data from data.gov. Next, we are going to go through the loop through HTTP car park table then convert SVY to lat long, and then after that we'll do a loop again until the end of the record. Now that we have loaded the HDB car park data, next step is to convert the X and Y values to lat long. Let's start by creating a REST connection to the OneMap API. I will create a new tab so that we can manage our code better. I'm going to call this XY to lat long. Click on Create New Connection button and choose REST. Enter the OneMap Converter API link to the URL box. We will leave the rest of the settings as it is, as this API requires two inputs, X and Y. We will need to create two query parameters. Scroll down to the Additional Request Parameters section. There are already one parameter box available. Click on the plus sign to add one more. Enter X and Y as the name of the parameters respectively. You may enter the X and Y values that are available from data.gov website. You can just copy the X coordinate and also the Y coordinate and paste into the values box accordingly. Click on the Test Connection button to test the connection. You should get the connection succeeded message. Close the message and change the name of the connection to SVY21 to lat long. And click on Create. Look for the newly created data connection and click on Select Data. A pop-up window will appear. You will see that the response type is JSON coming back from OneMap. Check the root box under the tables. OneMap returns the lat and long based on the values that we keyed in earlier using the data from data.gov. Click on Insert Script button. Qlik Sense will auto-generate the script for you. Now, what we have done is only loading one record. Next, we need to set up the script to loop through the entire HDB car park table. To do so, first we use the load resident method to load the row count into a field in a temp table. Then, we assign the row count that we got from the temp table into a variable called vnum of car park and drop the temp table. After we got the row count, we need to set up a do-while loop in our script. We use a variable called a and compare it to the number of car park, and then we end the loop with adding one step to the A variable and close off with the loop keyword. Next, we will loop through the HTTP car park table and fetch the ID, X and Y values one by one using the pick function. These values are stored in the respective variables so that we can refer to the values later on using the variables. The ID field will be used as identifier. We will pass in the X and Y values into the REST connection using the with connection keyword. Here, we pass in the X and Y values through the variables that we mentioned above. I will rename the table from root to lat long. And I'll add in the ID field in this table to leverage on the associative model. We have completed all the necessary steps and now ready to load the data and perform the transformation. Click on Load Data to reload the data. The data load was successful. If you look through the progress, you will notice that Qlik Sense will first load the HTTP car park data and then perform the conversion of X and Y values to lat long using the REST connection, one by one. Let's close this and take a look at the data model. First, we have the HTTP car park table that we loaded from data.gov. Then you will find the lat long table that we created using the OneMap API by looping through the HTTP car park table. And these tables are associated through the ID fields. We are now ready to visualize the data. Click on Sheet and click on Edit Sheet. Drag in the map chart object and I'm going to make it bigger and click on Add Layer and choose Point Layer. For the dimension, I'm going to choose Address and I'm going to set up the location. So I'm going to check on the box because we're using the latitude and longitude in our data. And for latitude, I'm going to choose latitude, and longitude, I'm going to use longitude. Once done, the car park will then be plotted accordingly. Let's click on Done Editing. So when you hover your mouse over the point, for example here, Qlik Sense will show you the address of this car park. Likewise, if you hover to another point. That's conclude my demo. If you have watched all 3-part videos, thank you. If you have not done so, please check out the links in the description. Through these videos, I have shown you the possibility for you to visualize your geospatial data using OneMap's rich and comprehensive map via either TMS or WMS. Also, in the last part, I've shown you how to transform and convert the geospatial data by leveraging OneMap's API. In short, I have showcased the advanced capability of Qlik Load Script in combination with ClickRest Connector and mapping visualizations. This in turn enables users to build very powerful applications with in-depth and extensive geospatial analysis. Well, we have come to the end of part 3. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more tips and tricks coming your way.